The man accused of killing 4 college students in Idaho is due back in court today. Brian Koberger will appear for a status hearing. Its case has captivated the nation. So what happens next? And what can we expect to hear from his defense team and from prosecutors for that matter? Joining me now, attorney and partner at Reed Smith, A. Scott Bolden. Scott, always good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, first off, let's just keep it simple. What typically happens at a status hearing? What can we expect today?
Well, it's a probable cause hearing, in some cases a preliminary hearing, where the government has to present evidence to the judge that, one, a murder has occurred, and then secondly, that the individual defendant did not necessarily commit that murder, but there's enough probable cause evidence that he is more likely than not to have committed it. And the judge has to determine, the magistrate judge has to determine whether to hold the defendant for further proceedings. You're going to hear a lot from police. Hearsay evidence is admissible, but it's almost like a grand jury, except the defense has an opportunity to cross-examine the government's witnesses. Does
the defendant have to be in the courtroom or appear remotely, or is this something the attorneys can handle?
No, the defendant is usually there. He or she will normally not testify, but the defendant is required to be in court.
All right, let's tap into your defense expertise. When we look at this case, and you're not involved in this case, just so we let everybody at home know, we're playing defense attorney here. You have a couple things that the prosecution's going to lay out here, right? And this is just taken from the affidavit of probable cause that we saw in this case so far. You have someone who reportedly left evidence behind with a DNA match. You have somebody who purportedly turned off his cell phone as he approached the crime scene, which would show intent to do something involved in a crime, perhaps. So there's a lot of evidence there. What defense do you take if you are his attorney?
Well, I still don't know a whole lot, but at the probable cause hearing today, I get to get as much discovery information as I can by cross-examining the police officers. For example, the white Elantra. There's several white Elantras that were in the area that were registered. Did the police investigate every individual that owned a white Elantra, which was essentially the getaway car? Secondly, how is it the testimony, there were 4 victims. How was the defendant able to walk out of the house, walk by one of the roommates, one of 2 roommates who was not touched, was not affected whatsoever, and who could not identify the killer? There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. So I'm probing the police and I'm probing documents to find out how strong the government's case is. Government probably has enough evidence for probable cause to hold the defendant, but this is an opportunity to find out as much about the government's case as possible.
It's a case that we mentioned has gripped the attention of people all across the country, and not just that, but this is one of those cases where every online forum has opened up and every citizen wants to try to solve this crime. How much of an impact does all of that attention have on a case like this? How can you get whatever fairness you need from either side to stick to the facts, even though you have an entire country of amateur crime solvers out there trying to weigh in on their opinion?
Well, the government and the defense has to do their jobs, basically, and have blinders on, and just do what they would normally do with any other case. And you've got the public attention to it, the PR to it can be problematic, but you still got to do your job. The biggest thing I'm looking for from the probable cause hearing, and you should too, is was there a prior relationship between the defendant and these 4 victims? What was his motive? You know, 80 to 90% of every murder committed in this country is done by someone who has a prior relationship with the victims. Here, it does not appear to be the case. Then how did he select these 4 victims and leave the other 2 in the house alive? What was his motive?
Scott, real quick, I want to jump in real quick because I want to just get one more question to that point, because a lot of people are curious in what happens here. A lot of the information has been sealed by the judge in this case, not to come out for some time. If there is a connection that the investigators, the prosecution, somebody in this case knows about, would that come out in the hearing today, or would that be something that is still sealed for a later court date?
It could, or the judge could close the courtroom for further inquiry. But the sealing of some of this information is really important. Was there another bad actor along with this defendant that's been arrested? Were there 2 others? It's hard to kill or stab 4 people at 4 a.m. on a given night by yourself. Was there a fight? or flight with these victims. It's either one or the other, and we just don't know enough.
This is why everybody is curious, and we're going to find out together this afternoon or today at least a little more information, hopefully. Scott, always a pleasure. Reed Smith, LLP, A. Scott Bolden, thank you very much. Good to talk to you this morning.
Thank you.